Thank you once again for joining. Like I said, so today we're here to learn how to cultivate self awareness to live a rich and radiant life. Um, yeah, so this is me. I'm Sekinat Alao, and this is here for anyone that doesn't know me, although I know you guys know me. But yeah, this is me. One thing that I like to describe myself with is I'm an encourager per excellence. So if you're around me and you have something to do, trust me, I'll encourage you to do it, right? I'll push you to do it. I currently podcast at the Radiant Woman podcast. I'm also an entrepreneur and a community builder at Misaba. And I also lead operations at the financial advisory firm. I know it feels like I'm doing a lot of things, but I'm not complaining for now. So yeah, so I do enjoy everything I'm currently doing. Alhamdulillah. Right. So today, what are we going to cover? We're going to cover, what self-awareness is, the key elements of self-awareness, the roadblocks to developing self-awareness, and how we can overcome them. We're also going to touch on the common myths around self-awareness and how to cultivate self-awareness. Right. So moving on. Um, so before I start, of course, I'd like to call aligned to this meeting. So basically, I'm just going to start with Bismillah. Right. So I have a quick question, and I'll appreciate it if any one of you could indulge me. So when you think about why you need to, be self-aware, what reason or reasons come to your mind? It's just a quick chat. Okay, someone is raising up their hand. You can unmute yourself, Amadi.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I was like, how do they raise hands in this team thing? Anyway, so basically, the question is, when you think about why you need to be self-aware, what reasons come to your mind? Okay, so the first thing that comes to my mind is, first of all, the fact that I need to be self-aware so I'm properly centered and I'm not running all over the place trying to do a million and one things, but I'm instead laser focused on what aligns most with my vision for myself, and of course my vision for being a Khalifa on this earth. So that comes to mind. And of course, another thing that comes to mind is so that I can focus on my strengths as opposed to my weaknesses. So I know people have this misconception of, trying to improve your weaknesses, when in reality, you should probably be trying to outsource them and focus on your strengths, so that you can turbo those, and then help them to get you to where you want to be. So for me, those are like the major reasons, especially because if you're a creative, or if you're creative inclined, you tend to be very scattered and be running up and down chasing a billion ideas. So I know that when I'm self-aware, it helps me to center, because I'm like, okay, this is where you should be. This is what you need to do to get there. This is it, right? You don't have to chase all the many other things that may seem attractive. So yeah, those are the first reasons that have come to my mind.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Amadi, for sharing. Salma, do you want to quickly share before I move along? Thank you. I totally agree with you, and I think we're on the same wavelength, Amadara. Thank you so much. Salma, do you want to share quickly before we move along? Okay, so I think I'll just run along. But just to mention, if you have questions, I mean, we'll take them at the end of the session. But if there's something like really, really urgent that you want to like share or you want to ask, feel free to unmute yourself and just call my attention to it. Right. Okay, so moving on. So today we are talking about living a radiant life. And when I put to reach there, I hope some of you did not think, oh, I'm trying to come teach you how to be rich. But of course, if you live a radiant life in quotes, chances are the probability that if it is wealth you're searching for, somehow you would get it, right? So to me, simply put, living a radiant life is living a life of intention and purpose. And this is very key for me because, as you know, we are humans, like Sis Omadara said, we are Khalifas on this earth, right? So we are here for a purpose, right? The primary one is to worship Allah. And I like to say that we have a secondary purpose. So some of us, Allah has put some burnings or in our hearts and some affinity for certain, topic areas or causes. And I personally believe that, I classify them as secondary purpose on this earth, right? So yes, we are here to worship Allah, but we also have other things and other ways that we can express ourselves on this earth and even make it better before we go back to our Rob, right? So intention is very key. As Muslims, we know that our actions shall be judged by intention, and Allah being so merciful, whether if you have a good thought and you don't eventually execute it, right, you get rewarded for it. If you have a bad thought and you do not execute it, you get rewarded for it. If you have a good thought and you execute it, you have double the reward, right? So and that just reminds me of one day I was listening to something, and someone was just like, oh, you're judged based on your performance, you're judged on what you do. And I'm like, thank God, God is not man, because I mean, with Allah, he's being so merciful and all that, we do get to reap all these rewards as long as we pay attention to our intention, right? So living a life of intention is very, very critical for us as Muslims. And that's why I feel like if you live intentionally, right, all areas of your life would, be optimal in quotes, right? If you live with purpose, anything that you do, you try to do it with purpose, and you just from there you build up from there, and inshallah, you move on to the next level, and you live a life of contentment, of grace, a life of blessings and prosperity, bi'idhnillah. So that's it for me, right? That is what radiance. I know it means different things for different people, but to me, it's basically those two things, living intentionally and purposefully. Right. So I like to look at our lives as, by the way, is my video on? Can you see my video?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. I couldn't see myself. So I was like, oh, is my video on? Am I just speaking to myself? All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So for me, I like to think we are a whole. So one person that has different parts, right? And I like to say my whole life is, into 9 different buckets. But for me, the center is my spirituality, right? My faith. And that should ideally flow into all the different things that I do. So in my self-development, when I talk about myself, my mindset, how I carry myself, my development and everything, my faith should be the center. So that I'm grounded in that. So my spirituality is what grounds me. And I think as Muslims, that should be the bone of connection. That should be what grounds us and influences everything that we do. So in our marriage, yes, we know that we want the life partner and all that, but there is the primary reason for us to marry, which is it's a part of worshiping Allah, right? In our career, in our businesses, whatever we decide to do, right? We need to put these things into consideration. Recreation and rest. Yes, there are a lot of things that we can do, but as Muslims, there are also certain things that we cannot do. And that's why it's very key that, our spirituality, our faith is center of what we do in our family, how we relate to them, in our finances, having halal sources of income, all these things, we need to pay attention to them, the relationships and our health, right? So all those things are moving parts that make us make our own. I feel like if everything, for us to really have an optimal life, right, we need to be self-aware, right? We need to know what we are doing in all these various aspects of our lives, right? Not everything would be balanced at once. Not everything would be rosy, right? But once we have an idea of, okay, these are the various parts of my life, these are the moving parts of my life, and this is what I should do, bearing in mind that, I'm Muslim and there are some things that, applied to me, then I think that we are on a path to, living radiantly and living a life that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. So when I think about a woman that is radiant, I formed this acronym called ASSET. So she's basically an asset. And when I mean asset, so A stands for aware. So a radiant woman is aware, right? You are aware of your purpose, like I said, the primary and secondary purpose, right? You're aware of your habits, your cues, your different, the things that make you happy, the things that make you sad. You're basically an aware person. Then S stands for you're sound. So you're sound in body, mind, and soul, and in character as well, right? Then the other S stands for support, right? You are aware of, the type of environments that make you thrive, the environments that, in all these various aspects of your life, they make you thrive, they make you happy. You know the support that you need, right? The kind of people that you need in your life to help you achieve this optimum life that you're aiming for, right? So you are sound. The E stands for expression. So we are created by a very, a perfect God, right? He knows He has blessed us with so much talent. So I know that for sure. I don't think there's one person that is just one way traffic. I know that a lot of us, we are multi talented. We are multi expressional, right? So a radiant woman knows, she's aware of her various gifts, and she's able to, use them per time or even all at once, however she pleases, right? And the last thing is time. A radiant woman is aware of time. She's judicious with her time. She doesn't make use of our time in a rubbish manner, so to speak, right? So as Muslims, we know that we are at loss for time if we do not use this in good deeds, right? So we have that in Surah to Asri, right? So we need to make sure that we use our time judiciously. So when we think about all these things, we see that we need to be aware of a lot of things in order to, live a life that is radiant and ultimately pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. So that's why I just wanted to show this quick wheel to just kind of bring things into perspective. Right. So moving on now. Moving on, what is self-awareness? Right. So self-awareness is how we see ourselves. So I know many of us, when we are thinking about self-awareness, we're just thinking about ourselves, how do I feel? What do I? What are my talents? How do I behave and all that? But we miss the second part, which is also how others see us, right? So it's not one dimensional. There are two parts to it. It's knowing yourself and also knowing how others see you. And most importantly, it's marrying these two different aspects and using it to live our best lives. And when I mean our best lives, I'm not meaning YOLO and all that, because like I said, we have to be very careful and conscious about what we define. So we need to be very careful of all these things. But what I mean is, living our best lives for me is, having the best of this life and the hereafter, right? So marrying these two things to help you to propel you forward towards that vision that you have, that end goal, which is ultimately going to Jannah. And of course, there are some things that you need to do on this earth too. There are things that you do here that will kind of feed into your akira, right? So self-awareness is basically two things: your internal view and the external view of people. Great. So moving on, I have a quote here by Dr. Prem Jagyazi that says, once we attain self-awareness, we stop becoming the victims of worthless comparisons, identity clashes, and of course, idle mindsets that make further progress impossible. And I think this speaks to what Sis Amadi mentioned, like you're not running helter-skelter, you are aware of, yourself. Of course, we can't know everything about ourselves because we are not God, right? But at least we should know enough to make us function optimally. So we can't know everything. So don't deceive yourself and think that you can know everything or there's one truth to everything. That's absolutely impossible. But at least when you know enough to keep you grounded, you are not looking at Shakira's life and saying, oh my gosh, she has everything, I want that. You know your own aspirations, you know your own goals, you know your own purpose, right? So you are not you take away that aspect of comparison, you take away the sin of envy and all those things. Of course, those things happen from time to time, but like I said, when you know enough, it reduces those occurrences, right? You do not have identity clashes, and of course, you are not your mindset is in the right place, so you're able to progress, right? So what are the benefits of self-awareness? So you have clarity and a good sense of, and a sense of God propelled purpose. So again, as Muslims, we are not staking out Allah out of the equation. So whatever it is that we feel like is our purpose, we should invite Allah. We should call him to tell, because he created us, right? So we should always invite him to say, Ya Allah, when we're making dua, show me, lead me to my purpose, lead me to the things that you want me to do. So don't just think that you can have it figured out by yourself, right? You want to invite Allah to that. So, and you being aware of knowing that yes, you're not here on your own and you're not here by mistake makes you know that you need to call on a higher body to help you on your journey, right? It also makes you one that makes smarter decisions, you have good character, better relationships. So people that are self-aware, so imagine if you're someone that maybe normally you have a tendency to be rude, and somehow you get aware of that behavior that you have. Of course, you will try, except you are somebody that is should I say incorrigible or something, you will try to adjust your behavior. So definitely when you are aware, you tend to you know try to develop your character, be of better character, and of course that influences your relationship because people want to be around a good sport, right? You have more focus, more contentment, less overwhelm and joy, and you also have more confidence, creativity, alignment, and progression. Right. When you have self-awareness, it doesn't mean that all these things will just happen or it's going to be there 100% every time, day in, day out. But again, the chances that you would have all these things, the probability is very high, and it's not elusive to you, unlike some people that they're just going through the haze and you're not really aware of yourself. Great.